We won't hold you up any longer, though. So Luke's going to kick things off this evening with the first story. Let me try to get this music queued up here. This music working?
Oh, yeah, I can hear it.
I can't, so I don't know.
Oh, that's weird.
I'm going to believe him, so I will mute my mic and let you get going here.
Alrighty. Okay, now this is an older story. This is from 13 years ago when this first started making the rounds. Later on, the guy was able to verify that this was a true thing that happened because he talked about it later on. Anyway, this is called The Smiling Man. It says, about 5 years ago, and mind you, this was 13, so it was like 17 years ago now, 18 years. I lived in downtown in a major city in the U.S. I'd always been a night person, so I'd often find myself bored after my roommate to sleep. That's the time I used to go for long walks, to spend the time thinking. I spent 4 years like that, walking alone at night, and never once had a reason to feel afraid. I always used to joke with my roommate that drug dealers in the city were polite. But all that changed in just a few minutes on one evening. It was a Wednesday, somewhere between 1 and 2 in the morning. I was walking near a police-patrolled park quite a ways from my apartment. It was a quiet night, even for a weeknight, with very little traffic and almost no one on foot. The park, as it was most nights, was completely empty. I turned down a short side street in order to loop back to my apartment when I first noticed him. At the far end of the street, on my side, was a silhouette of a man dancing. It was a strange dance, similar to a waltz, but he finished each box step with an odd forward stride. I guess you could say he was dance walking, heading straight for me. Deciding he was probably drunk, I stepped as close as I could to the road to give him the majority of the sidewalk to pass me. The closer he got, the more I realized how gracefully he was moving. He was very tall and lanky, and wearing an old suit. He danced closer still until I could make out his face. His eyes were wide open and wild, his head tilted back slightly, looking off at the sky. His mouth was formed in a painfully wide cartoon of a smile. Between the eyes and the smile, I decided to cross the street before he danced any closer. Took my eyes off him to cross the empty street. As I reached the other side, I glanced back and stopped dead in my tracks. He had stopped dancing and was standing with one foot in the street, perfectly parallel to me. He was facing me, but still looking skyward. Smile still wide on his lips. I was completely and utterly unnerved by this. I started walking again, but kept my eyes on the man. He didn't move. Once I had put about half a block between us, I turned away from him for a moment to watch the sidewalk in front of me. The street and sidewalk ahead of me were completely empty. Still unnerved, I looked back to where he had been standing to find him gone. For the briefest of moments, I felt relieved until I noticed him. He had crossed the street and was now slightly crouched down. Couldn't tell for sure due to the distance and the shadows, but I was certain he was facing me. I looked away from him for no more than 10 seconds, so it was clear that he had moved fast. I was so shocked that I stood there for some time staring at him, and then he started moving toward me again. He took giant, exaggerated, tiptoed steps as if he was a cartoon character sneaking up on someone, except he was moving very quickly. I'd like to say at that point I ran away or pulled out my pepper spray or my cell phone or anything at all, but I didn't. I just stood there, completely frozen, as the smiling man crept toward me. Then he stopped again, about a car length away from me, still smiling his smile, still looking at the sky. When I finally found my voice, I blurted out the first thing that came to mind. What I meant to ask is, "What the hell do you want?" in an angry, commanding tone. What came out was a whimper of, "What the?" Regardless of whether or not humans can smell fear, they can certainly hear it. I heard it in my own voice, and that only made me more afraid. But he didn't react to it at all. He just stood there, smiling. Then, after what felt like forever, he turned around very slowly and started dance walking away, just like that. Not wanting to turn my back to him again, I just watched him go, till he's far enough away to be almost out of sight. Then I realized something. He wasn't moving away anymore, nor was he dancing. I watched in horror as the distant shape of him grew larger and larger. He was coming back my way, and this time he was running. I ran too. I ran until I was off the side road and back onto a better lit road with sparse traffic. Looking behind me, he was nowhere to be found. The rest of the way home, I kept glancing over my shoulder, always expecting to see his stupid smile, but he was never there. I lived in that city for 6 months after that night, and never went out for another walk. There's something about his face that always haunted me. He didn't look drunk, he didn't look high. He looked completely and utterly insane, and that's a very scary thing to see.
That's it's creepy. Some reason I'm picturing like a moonwalking Michael Jackson. I don't really know.
Yeah, he described it as being in an old, tattered suit. It almost sounds like the Joker, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like the part where he described those tiptoeing steps, you can picture
I pictured that like
wolf,
cartoon-esque.
that wolf character in a lot of old Hanna-Barbera cartoons would tiptoe like that, you know?
Yeah. That's what I was picturing, like literally like the exaggerated steps, the long strides.
So he later found the guy, saw him again before he had moved, and he updated the stories. Like, it was still like a long time ago when he updated the story. He was on Molly. The guy was rolling pretty hard, apparently.
Did you just ask him, "Hey, bro, why were you dancing?"
Yeah, he brought it up to us, and like, you know, he was dancing in the street, and he was crazy looking. He was really high. But there's the scariest thing, right? Like, you see this person, and then the fact that he started running towards him.
Yeah.
I can imagine being in that situation, not knowing what's going on. That would be the creepiest thing on the planet. It'd be super scary.
It would be. At least I guess you had like alternative routes to get away.
You gotta start going then.
But still, though, you don't like know, like, he's so unpredictable at this rate. You don't know what he's going to do next. The only thing you can predict is he's going to continue to mess with you because that's what he's been doing.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's so crazy. Just dancing.
That one is like the least, I want to say the least scary of the stories that I have tonight. But it was the most creepy because of this guy doing this in the street.
It would be so creepy if that was you dealing with it. I mean,
yeah.
Was this a man or a woman dealing with this?
I believe it was a young man.
Okay. I didn't know if you'd specified or not. Still though.
I believe that it is a man. I couldn't remember the name off the top of my head of the person, but they were just out and about by themselves and never had anything like this happen, right? And so for this to suddenly happen one night, that would put you off walking.
Let's go to the chat here. We do have people saying that the individual was probably drunk, intoxicated. So yeah, I think people were right on to where you're going with that there, because why else would you act like that? So this was a major city, right?
Yeah, they didn't mention the name of the city, but it's probably one of the larger ones. I think he said,
and it was late, really late at night.
Yeah, real late at night. He said it was well after his roommate would go to sleep. He would go out on late night walks.
So I'm picturing this like scene where only strange people are out this late at night.
Yeah, and he said he had dealt with mentioned that he's seen drug dealers, but they never really messed with them.
I was in Shreveport last week, and there were people outside the airport at 4:30 in the morning, but they weren't dancing. I'll tell you that much.
I gotta tell you, that would be pretty scary if they were.
I just don't. It's just, and I thought to myself, like, why would you be out that late? But I don't know. Also had a bulletproof window at the gas station that I was at, pumping gas. So,
man,
maybe that was telling me something. I don't know.
Yeah, it is.
I didn't even know. I was going everywhere in the city. I don't know if that classifies as a major city, but still, though. There's probably always people going to be outside in those settings, but I can almost, like, you see it in a movie where you're secluded and you get in this scenario where, like, there's nobody else on the street but you and this person you think stalking you.
Yeah, he said that it was more empty than usual, so I guess he hadn't seen you for a bit.
Well, people saying they wouldn't take any late night walks anymore after that.
Yeah, well, he stopped, and I would too. I would never go out another one.
I just wish I knew how this like second part of this went. Like, he's walked up to him and be like, "Dude, you're dancing the other night," and
I didn't get the full story of how that went, but he just
like the next day, he's like, "Dude, getting coffee or something." He's like, "Dude, do you remember me from last night?" He's like, "No, bro, I was all messed up on Molly," and he's like, "Yeah, man, well, let me buy you a coffee and tell you about how you're moonwalking towards me or something." I don't know.
Oh shit. Yeah, I would like to know the whole conversation. That's for damn sure.
I find this so odd because this is similar to the story I'm going to share first.
Oh,
but
nice.
a completely different setting.
Okay.
So I just trying to wrap my mind around how once again we pick something so similar.
I'm excited to hear this one then.
It's so weird that this is all just. I'm trying to take it in right now because it's so similar but yet so different. So I'm excited. But this is a good story. I'm glad that there was a conclusion for the guy, and it's just some dude messed up one night. It
Yeah.
wasn't like some long-term stalker or some weird situation.
Nothing supernatural about it. It was just a creepy person being creepy.
Yeah, it said have to learn how to waltz now. We don't really know to guess what exact dance moves he was doing, but I'm sure they were great.
Jeff Townsend Media. CG, good night.
And the question is, do I stay here? Will you be back? Are you gonna come back? Will you be back? Are you coming back?